How are we all going? Right? Yeah. It's a really interesting time. I know I've mentioned a lot of things on a video and different things, but it's really exciting time to live as God's people. I think it was only like a little while before the coronavirus thing came out. I'm thinking, what's the next season? You know? What's the next season? With church, and we've been doing church the same way for a while. Well, I guess things are changing up big time, aren't they? As we go, and I think, as I've mentioned before, it's a really important time to be alert in His Spirit. I say it again, I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. Just to keep us safe, as well as to be effective as His people, we need to be listening to what God's saying. And even if we don't know what He's saying, just to be listening. Even if you can't hear anything, to be listening. Because that's what's going to keep us on track. When we listen into the shepherd's voice, we're listening. So just be alert and be ready. If we're not looking to listen to God, what will happen is we will, by default, start tuning into other sounds. When you're looking for a radio station, not that many people do that these days, but do you remember the days where you used to look for a radio station and the static would go and you find another one, you know? That's a bit like tuning into His Spirit to hear what He's saying, right? And sometimes I think if we don't tune into what His channel and what He's saying, we can be tuning into another channel with it. And trust me, there's a lot being spoken out in various radio stations and media right now that could cause a lot of confusion. There's so many different opinions. There's so many, so many messages that are coming out. Oh, this is the truth. No, this is the truth. Oh, you should have done that. Or no, you're taking too many precautions. And there's just so much information. And when people are full of fear, and there's people that are fearful at the moment, you start to becoming really almost like hypochondriac kind of mental state that is not good for your health. There's more and more research these days about how stress has a major effect on our health. And at this time, we need to be healthy. We need to be wise. We need to do the things that we need to do, right? Praise God, we can still meet as a church, right? And it doesn't mean we have to meet in a big fancy building like this either. Whatever might happen, I've just what's this series called Minnow? Used to be called Jelly Telly. When I changed numbers on a credit card and the subscription stopped for Netflix, and I'm like, good. It wasn't really much going on Netflix anyway. Good shares to buy Netflix, probably, by the way. But anyway, it's probably already inflated the price. But Jelly Telly is a Christian kids like Netflix. And there was this thing called Torchlighters, those that had been going out and doing amazing things, gone through persecution around the church throughout history. And, oh boy, it's full on. It kind of reveals how people die for the faith, even have been tortured for their faith, in a cartoon for kids. So they kind of try and do the best they can, but it's really, Brooke and I are watching it and being really challenged in our faith. One of the recent ones that we just watched the other night involves someone who, under a communist regime in Romania, was outlawed. There was the church in state church where you had to endorse and all their propaganda and things like that, but he didn't want to sign up to that. And secretly they were meeting out in the forests. And I'm like, wow, meeting in the forests. But what about morning tea? You know, who's setting up the urn? Where do you plug in the forest? You know? And sometimes I think, one day we could have a more extravagant building. We're trying to get this place lined and insulated and whatever. But at the end of the day, what's the most important thing about God and us is starting to come out in our society. That not even we need a building. You know, we're God's people. If it comes to a time we have to meet over there, we meet over there. All these things I'm realising it really doesn't matter. But there's something powerful and significant when God's people come together. And we'll be wise about it. We don't have to break the rules or anything like that, and we can be safe with it. But it doesn't matter. And I think in this time, all the facades of what we've been trained into thinking, from what we've seen and heard and experienced, it has to be like this and it has to be like that, is busting open. And I'm believing it's a time where we come back to the raw truth about what this is all about. When you take away the fluff, it leaves you with thinking, what is it that we believe? Do I believe in the words of the Bible? Do I believe in life and death? Do I believe in heaven and hell? Do I believe that Jesus really is the only way? And when we lose some of the distractions at this time, I think it's really important for us as His people to tune in. And as things are shaken up, what does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? I've got the winnowing fork out, digging it into the chaff and the wheat, and He's throwing it up in the air, and the chaff is blowing away and the wheat is falling. In some recent experiences I've had, I've seen something of a raw nature of gospel growth from a seed, right? And it's growing rapidly in some experiences I've had recently. So we are in that time where we have the opportunity to be thrown into the air, and all the chaff that might have been around us and on us can be blown away. And where we come back to being like a little child, raw and real and like a baby born again with our Almighty God. You know, sometimes I've had frustrations grow in me about how we are as His people and how I am and what I slip into as His people. And this is a really interesting time, and a time that God, I believe, is using to bring us back to what this is all about. That if we need to, like that Romanian preacher, pastor that I just learned about, who had to meet in the forest and then eventually got caught and went to jail. It's interesting, the story, right? Because him and his wife lived with conviction. They stood up to the authorities and they refused to just be the endorsed church. And his wife and him were on the same page. This guy went through torture. He reached many prisoners for Christ. His wife ended up working in some camp somewhere. And all the while they were saying, and they had this son, right, this young son, right? You can imagine the devastation of the family being broken apart. And all the while he's in prison, the prison guards go, oh, your son's become a communist, he's working for the government now. And so he's thinking, oh no, my son's been... Anyway, he eventually comes back home. And he walks into his home, not knowing what he's going to come home to. It was amazing how he was released. And he came back home. And he walked into his house in his lounge room. And there's this young man sitting in the lounge room preaching to a group of people. And it was his son. You see, sometimes we think we need to protect our kids from the rawness and the realness and the danger of what it is to follow Christ. We don't have much danger in our society. But if it came to that point, what our kids and if you don't have kids, what the next generation needs to see is a group of people that are committed and actually believe the words that are in front of our face that's in the Bible, so they can pick up something that we can leave behind. That the baton is not thrown on the floor for another generation to pick up and start running, that the baton is passed on with momentum going forward in the things of His kingdom. And so when I watched that, and even though it's a cartoon and stuff, and I saw, because I didn't know the story, when I saw that young man carrying on the work of his parents without any fear, even though he didn't know whether his dad was dead or alive or tortured or whatever, and his mum was gone and had come back, he didn't lose any resolve because he saw that his parents believed in something so deeply and passionately it was worth more than their own life. And when we live like that, and when we can run like that, living on purpose, living with conviction about what the gospel really is about, the truth of it, the severity of it, the basis of it for our lives, we show the generation behind us that that this thing is real. My kids don't need a nice, comfortable Christian lifestyle. They need something real with God. They don't need some kind of nice feelings to make themselves feel good. They need the Spirit of God in them. And to know what that is, to know what they're following and know what they're listening to. And that's the race we're running. So in one sense, I do have the concern for people's businesses at the moment. I have concern for people's health at the moment. And they're real things. But I know how good my God is in it all. I know how good my God is. He is a master at making good things out of terrible situations. I remember someone once said we had a miscarriage. You tell me when he's up again, because Pastor Lee's going to speak again. I remember we had a miscarriage in between Isaiah and Silas. And I'd heard about miscarriage. I thought, oh, that's pretty sad. And then we experienced it ourselves and we were absolutely devastated. And I remember someone thought they were being really nice. And they said to us, oh, well, it's God's plan. And I just said to them, no. Because I was already invested in that baby. And I don't believe it was God's plan to grow them for a little bit and then kill them. You see, God is a God of life, and life in all of its abundances. But I do know something about God, that although we live in this world, and worldly things happen, and death happens, and pain happens, and people lose their jobs and things like that, I know something about my God, that plan A that God created, and God's plan A was for that child to come to being. God was able to take that plan A, create a new plan A in place of that. And now we've got our other two. Mighty men of God. World changers. God's able to take a plan A, and if that gets destroyed or affected, he can create another plan A, because it says God works together all things for the good of those that love him. And so we are a people that love God. Are we not?
Yes.
We are a people that love God. And I believe that in this time, God is working, as he always does, to produce heaps of good out of it. Amen?
Amen.